Hello everybody, welcome back to another edition of this transfer tank install. Yes, I could put Norman up on the lift, but there's stuff in my garage and I figured this grass looks pretty comfy today. So I got a pile of parts, pile of stuff, and all my connections. I'm just gonna do some heat shrink, and then I'm just gonna brush on some electric tape over top of everything as well. So I've got a new solenoid valve, got a new filter system, and I hope that that will work on gravity feed. If not, I might have to redo a few things. I got some just different bushings and adapters. This is a 1/2 inch, and my tank and that elbow are 3/8 inch. So I had to get some bushings and a couple street 90s, and so I think I'm ready to go. I've got my first nipple and my first bushing through the truck bed, and I'm going to put a socket on that and tighten it down before I put the solenoid on. This grass is pretty comfy. Hope I don't fall asleep today. Next, I've got this solenoid valve, but if I go to thread it on, I'm hitting my fuel filler. So that has to be addressed regardless. So I might as well pull the fuel filler apart, get the solenoid on in a position about like that, and then put this all back together with my fuel pump return plus my filler T somewhere here. I'm going to try to move this filler return inside the frame here. So I've got all my clamps loose, and I can move this T here. And I also marked on the hose, on the filler hose over here, where I would like to make the cut to install this on the inside of the frame. So I'm going to take that apart. Try not to get too messy. This is just a fuel return, but I don't know if there's fuel in here right now or not. And I don't want to siphon everything out. So I'm going to be careful not to do that and get this moved over. But first, I have to take the top side of the filler off because I forgot there's this like vent hose or anti-siphon something or other. So there's a tube inside of a tube, and it pretty much goes all the way to the tank. So I have to remember to feed that all the way back through. So I'm going to take the top side apart and start over real quick. I think this is pretty funny. So you know how with small sockets, this side here means that this will be the hex, you know, like a normal socket would be. Check out this 7mm that I just found in my Husky set. Must be the first time I've ever used it. That's the square drive. And that's the hex that got stamped. So somehow this got backwards in their die one way or another. That's funny stuff. So using my favorite DeWalt knife that I've ever had in my palm of my hand, this is the one that I put about that deep right there last year. I made a pretty decent cut, so I'm going to use the air gun and blow all that out and install this back on the tank, get that T put in here, and then figure if I need to shrink this up a little bit, because I'm putting one more, you know, it's not going to go back together like this, it's going to go back together about like that. So I'm guessing I'm going to have to take about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch out of this to make everything work. Okay, well, working with somebody else's projects, you know, there's always something that will go a little bit goofy or wrong. And when I got back from the Ace Hardware this morning, I said, well, I'll probably make 2 or 3 more trips to the parts store today before this is done. And when, you know, I ran out of hose clamps. I thought I had some on my parts truck. I had one, and when I went to take it apart, the screw came out, and I'm like, you know what? 2 new ones, I'll splurge for $2.10. So I've got my hose clamps. I've got this T right here. And then I also cut this piece, so it was a pretty rigid cut before, and so I took my narrowest section and cut that much out, so that way I will have plenty of room. I'll clean this up and get it installed along with this, and then the rest of this filler hose that's sitting here will slide right in, and then I can work on the finished install plumbing whatnots. And also, I remembered when I just looked down that I haven't put this on yet. So I'm going to get that cranked down and get it into position so it's out of the way to put that filler neck in. So I ended up installing this together because this tube was a little bit larger diameter than that tube, and it was easier to wrestle it on down here. So now I got to feed that thing all the way back through into the tank, and then feed this back up into that hole up in the truck. Okay, well, that solenoid's in place. The elbow outlet is in place. Everything's good. The fuel filler is in place. I do need to put the 3 screws up top to hold it there. All my hose clamps are tight. My lift pump return is in place, and I like the way that is. There's a ton of extra hose, and so it's all zip tied up in place and out of the way. So I had to cut a couple zip ties, so I need to secure that return hose better, and then install this filter system somewhere. Yeah. I have not figured out anything I need from the parts store. So that filter is installed now. My drill wandered a little bit, so it's not necessarily vertical, but that's okay. It'll work. All right, so the filter is hooked up. The solenoid is hooked up. Everything is plumbed, we'll say, as far as hooked up goes. Now those blue and yellow wires are the power and ground for that solenoid. So I need to run a wire up to a switch in the cab, and then I have to clean up all the loose ends of hoses and wires and whatnot, tie it all out of the way, and then go pressure test this thing. It's a 29-gallon tank, so I'll probably put like 10 gallons or so in it and see what happens, and then flip the switch and see if it flows. I think this is going to work well, even though that filter's so low. Because the tank is above the bed, gravity's still going to do its job and push everything through. Okay, so I just threw about $10 10 gallons of fuel in here. So I'm going to open this valve. And I hear things glugging, and now I just heard it stop. So I'm going to go underneath, check for leaks. I did run a, what did I run? I ran a wire up to the fuse box, and then now I'll just run it up and hit the battery with it and check the whole system for leaks, and hope all is well. Hello. Well, if I get my fat head out of the way, you'll see that that fuel filter is empty. So I'm just going to clamp the battery post and that wire together and watch it fill up and see if I can see it moving through, kind of see how fast it goes. Okay. Oh yeah. It's flowing all right. I can hear it. Yeah, I can hear it going through really well. I keep seeing little bubbles flowing through, so yeehaw, that's great. So next step is going to be finishing some wiring and hit the road jack. So under the dash here I found a switched ignition power source, and so I ran a wire, and I've got a whole bunch of extra wires because I need to have that extra ability if I need to pull the dash panel, and I'll show you that in a minute. So there's a ton of extra wire, and right here I've got my switch. I've got a green light for the diesel, and so when I flip it on, I've got my green light. I flip it off, I don't have a green light, and I think that'll do it. Thanks for being my shade. It's pretty sunny out right now, but this has been I guess a fulfilling project, and I'm looking forward to having that extra capacity when I'm on the road. I'm going to be able to virtually double my mileage. Not my fuel mileage, just my mileage between stops, and that's always good when you're not getting the best mileage. I'm sure that I'm going to get worse fuel mileage hauling a fifth wheel than I am a bumper pull because it's so much higher. But we'll see how it goes. I think I've given myself enough time to get there, and so I don't have to push it too fast, and I can just roll on. So have a good day. Take care. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.